innovation park called Unit.city. So thank you all for coming. When I was talking to our distinguished speaker, I think a couple of weeks ago, I said that we'll do our best to assemble, some prominent audience from Kiev and Ukraine to attend the event. He said that, he wasn't worried. He would be happy, as he said, to have just a fireside chat with 3 or 4 people, as much as he could deliver something of value to us. So I'm very happy to see that it's not 3 or 4 people, and thank you very much for making it all happen. You can do applause here. Don't punish for that. So before I invite Andrew to the stage, I want to give some of the background, how it all came together. In August last year, we attended Singularity University Global Summit in San Francisco. And of course, as it happens, we wanted to use this opportunity to meet some prominent companies, venture capital investors, and other personalities that make this place such a distinguished spot on this planet. And we were happy to be invited to Airbnb headquarters. The first thing that we noticed that I wouldn't say old, because nothing in the US is pretty much old, but it's an industrial former warehouse area where you have not very pretty warehouses and buildings that are currently being renovated and used for new purposes, because the land price in San Francisco is, I think, one of the highest in the world, if not the highest. So you arrive at that block. It's not very pretty. It's gray, as it always happens in summer in San Francisco. And then you enter this headquarters of Airbnb, and the first thing you notice, apart that it's beautiful, it's smart, it's very smartly designed, it is light, it is refreshing, it is innovative, you notice 2 railroad rails that stretch and go right to the reception. Right in the concrete floor, you see 2 railroad rails. And when I asked what was it, they said that before Airbnb, it was a big industrial building where they used to take cargoes in and out by railway cars, and they decided to keep a couple of those rails to be reminded that it used to be a center of economic activity even before our era. And what I remember thinking, and the reason why I remembered it, is because I could tell that the company and the founders, obviously, they paid so much attention to the design. And I don't want to be a spoiler here, but Andrew will tell you more how this design thinking of the founders really impacted the business and the phenomenal success of this company. I don't have to tell you about Airbnb, because basically any article or any speech that includes a paragraph about 4th Industrial Revolution mentions companies that disrupted industries tremendously and irreversibly, and companies like Uber and like Airbnb that, for instance, is the biggest accommodation company on the planet that doesn't own a single piece of real estate. Another thing that I want to point out is that when we were invited to the conference room and given a presentation, why I'm giving quotes to the conference room, is because it actually looked like your regular living room with a carpet and a couch and a fireplace. So you were like invited to your friend's apartment and you had a friendly chat rather than a corporate presentation. The reason why that is important, I think, is once again that the company believes so much in what it does and in very detailed and principle of what it does, that it embodies those principles everywhere, not only through their platform, not only working with their hosts and with their visitors, but also working with their staff, with their headquarters, with their offices that are designed to streamline the thinking in this very specific direction. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure and it is my honor to invite the General Director of Airbnb for Central and Eastern Europe, Russia, Turkey, and Israel, Andrei Verbitsky.
What an intro. Nick, thank you very much for inviting me. By the way, I'm sorry for my voice. I just landed from San Francisco last night, and from 20 degrees plus to -10, I think something happened at the last night. So I'll try to stick to my content as much as possible, but there's basically nice slides, so you can just read them yourselves. But big thank you for Unit.city and Nick personally, because I haven't been in Ukraine for a long time, and only due to this magical man who convinced me to swing by and actually witness what you guys have here on site. This is an amazing place, and I think you all should be very happy to be here. So, where's my clicker? What we thought of doing, I mean, I have a couple of slides to kind of present about the company, but it's more about discussion. So if you guys have any questions, or would like to deep dive into some of these topics, please jump in. I think we're going to have a separate Q&A towards the end. That could be also the way to do it. But we're going to just talk quickly about the company. And by the way, I'm not sure I'm going to speak to everybody, so I just decided to list my email. Very easy, first name, last name at Airbnb.com. LinkedIn, emailing me, happy to answer if I can. So, mostly slides will be in English. This is the only kind of mixed one that I forgot to update. But just, can I have a quick raise of hands? Who are the users so far at Airbnb? This is very cool. And who are the hosts? Anybody host in the building? That's typical scenario, usually 2 to 4% hosting. And we should thank these guys big time, because without hosts, this platform wouldn't be there. And this is the core of our culture, our product, and our vision to have all these guys on the platform opening their homes and providing hospitality. So quickly for those guys, I guess I should skip this slide because you all know who we are. But it's a global platform. It is the platform. That's the important things to say. We have a whole ton of properties around the world. We'll talk more about it, but it's very important that we don't own or operate none of these properties. So it's purely online-driven marketplace, and that's the key part for this description. We're growing quite explosively in the last couple of years, almost doubling every year. And again, we'll talk about. And in terms of like scale, for those who may be not that familiar with how scalable this company is, it's 10 years in the business, and by now our capitalization, if that could be the measure, we're bigger than Hilton and Hyatt hotel groups combined. And again, without a single bed or single apartment that we actually own. Good question.
How is this capitalization calculated versus Hilton? Because they buy property.
This question is above my pay grade. I don't know the answer to this. But it's a good question. Let's keep it to the end. I think because some of the answers we'll find out in the next couple of slides in terms of what do we have on the platform and why it's so special, why people like to use it. So let me just start with a little bit about history, story of how it all started. Like any startup is started with a problem. I'm sure you guys all in the room working on some of your problems. So very similar story happened here. 3 friends met in San Francisco. Whoa. Hold on, where should I point it? Should I point it over there or here? No. So 3 friends, mid-20s, 24, 25, 27 years old, moved to San Francisco to pursue their American dream. Become entrepreneurs, also known as unemployed, right? So, moved to San Francisco from different places, upstate New York, Chicago, I believe, and some other places, and rented an apartment together. That's the apartment that they rent. In the middle of San Francisco, super expensive area, as we just learned, and the rent goes up, 25% goes up. They're really depressed, they actually unemployed, as I mentioned, they don't have that much money. How do they meet the rent of that month? They are thinking, okay, maybe we should kind of split up, go back to where we stay, move to a smaller place, all these options. And then they figure out, you know what, the design conference coming to town. And 2 of these guys are designed by education. Brian and Joe, they went to design school, not programmers, not marketers, not business, not Stanford degree, purely art background. It's very special background for Silicon Valley, and actually for a lot of startups, I would say. And you see this scale of this event. It's a huge event, 10,000 people in the city. All hotels are sold out. It's just really hard to find a place to stay. Joe, he was a regular camper, and he said, why don't we do this? I have 3 air mattresses that are gonna inflate. Jesus. All right. I think we're almost there. Yeah, we're gonna inflate 3 air mattresses, create this simple website, a blog post, and advise fellow designers to stay at our apartment and get air bed and a bit of breakfast. And it's a play on words on the name bed and breakfast. Air bed, that's the story of it. So right now the name is shortened, obviously, but that's the kind of original and very random, beginning. So what happened? They actually filled up this room very quickly with 3 customers, in very different background. This guy's from India, and this is industrial designer from New York. This single mom from Boston. They spent 3 days on the weekend, made $1,000 out of this exercise, and more importantly, made friends. They stayed in touch with these guys, saw each other at the weddings, and stayed close for years after that. They realized, all right, listen, it looks like we may have a business model to make money, but also we have this very special connection with these folks, because when you stay in the same apartment for just 3 days, you have so many more opportunities to connect, because your arch of building friends is very condensed. And if you do it right, you share breakfast, you share restrooms, all the good stuff and not so good, but it connects you very close. So they actually stay together, and they're like, all right, maybe that's actually could be a business. So that was, as I said, very random beginning, which led to, oh my goodness, to massive explosions. So in the beginning it was mostly US business, mainly in New York, because that was the concentration of a lot of tourists and high rent. But very soon, European expansion happened. And today we're actually much bigger in Europe than in the US. So Europe globally is 60% of our business. Paris is number 1 overall. For American company, Paris is number 1 market, and that's exciting. So in a matter of 10 years, we got to these results. We are in all the countries where we could legally be present, except for, I think, North Korea, Syria, and Iran. And we have 4.5 million objects. And objects are super, super different. You all guys remember the room that they shared? That was our beginning, but then since then we went to a whole bunch of different apartments, luxury villas. The island of Richard Branson is listed on the platform as well. So the scope and the range of price category is immense. But also we're very happy and proud actually of having the collection of most unique and picturesque opportunities to stay. So this is a house in Atlanta, which is actually a tree house, and it's connected with 3 different houses with this little bridges, wooden bridges hanging out there. Super high property in demand, very hard to book. This is, the whole house is done out of the seashells, and everything you do, the table, the shower top, the, all the design elements are done out of this design. Super interesting, also quite expensive, as you can see. And then you also can stay, for example, in the boat in Amsterdam, which is again super unique. So what happens is that we're trying to create an environment where we're taking you away from being a tourist, a typical tourist who goes into the same tourist traps, and show you the same destination from a different angle. It allows you to relive it again. You could have been in Paris 5 times, but if you come with us on the 6th time, you're definitely going to see it differently. So this is a collection of properties, but we also have a lot of users, a lot of hosts, and this is the main part, what I was saying in the beginning. Our hosts are the main part of our community. So the human connection behind every listing, every house, there's a host who's welcoming, who's giving your story. He's giving you a spotlight of his favorite places to be in that neighborhood, and it gives a special feel of this trip. And our mission really is to connect travelers, connect guests with these unique experiences that would create memorable and meaningful travels. So I'm going to show you a little clip. Sorry, it's going to be in Russian, but you're going to get the idea. It's our marketing campaign from last summer, which summarized all these principles, and I hope you're going to get the idea of how it works. some help.
Не приезжай в Париж, не приезжай в Лос-Анджелес, не приезжай в Токио. Приезжай пожить, ты будешь как дома в любой точке мира, снимая жилье через Airbnb. Чувствуй это даже во сне. Пробуй местную кухню, стань своим. Куда бы ты ни направился, не просто приезжай туда. Приезжай пожить, даже если всего на одну ночь.
So, and you might notice that this clip is done in really rough cut. The voiceover is pretty rough as well, and we've done it on purpose to stand away from typical glossy images of travel agencies and really show the human part of the travel. And we believe that system is online, but real magic happens offline. The human connection really makes it different. So that was the, our first chapter of the company. For the first 9 years, that's what we've been doing. We were providing accommodation for all travelers. But all this time, we were thinking about the problem that we were trying to solve. We were trying to make memorable and magical trip. The travel is much more than the place to stay. It's end-to-end experience, where you go, what do you do, and all that kind of stuff. And as Brian says, it's not about stuff actually, it's about experience. It's about those memories that you're going to get through this trip. And what you're going to bring back as a transformational story. And as a design company, we're looking at the space and distill it into two main problems that we wanted to address. So the first problem with the current travel opportunity is that when we think about travel, we're thinking about this magical, meaningful opportunities that remind us posters from old travel agencies. That you're going to get on this trip, you're going to go to this mysterious Havana, and this is, going to be your life of your time. In reality, though, when we get on the trip and we ended up in destination, we kind of don't even remember which city it was. It's the same double-decker. It's long lines to museum, one or another. A whole bunch of people running around with the selfie stick and the yellow umbrellas to not to get lost. So it's definitely not magical. It might be easy to book, but it's nothing to bring home about. So that was one opportunity that we identify as something that we need to address. Another one, if you talk about the good trip, it actually takes a lot of time to put it together. So a typical planning for a trip takes longer than the actual trip itself, which is obviously not the way to do it. I mean, we know all these pictures, we go to different websites, different applications, download, travel guides, talk to a whole bunch of people. It's a very stressful process. So, as a result, we get this long-term vision to create magical trips which are easy to book. So these two major drivers that were put in place in the next platform. So the next chapter of our company is to create a platform which really connects end-to-end all the opportunities within the trip. And as you can see, homes, that's where we started, and consider stays a major part of our business, but then also experiences, places to stay, to go, people to see, restaurants to book, car rental to find. So it's going to be, a whole family of opportunities that will create end-to-end experience, and you're going to have it on one simple use application to resolve this. So this is a little clip that shows you examples of experiences that we're launching.
Welcome to the world of trips, Airbnb.
Anything you like? Nick, what's your favorite?
Why? The girls.
Here we go. So the idea is very similar. It's a human-powered business. All these guys that you see, they were sharing their passion points, something that they super kind of happy about. So, for example, the track for marathon runners, it's in Kenya, where most of the successful marathoners are being trained. So, previous Olympic participant is actually the host of this experience, and they give this special, unique opportunity to immerse yourself into this special, couple of day, diet, special trainings, and then you hang out with all these sportsmen. So you really get out of this experience as a new person, and so on. I mean, the list of those opportunities are endless, and this is just to give you a flavor of the approach that we take. So this is shortly about the company. Hopefully that kind of sums up your understanding and then builds more. What I want to talk about, and Nick asked me, give some hooks, like what are the learnings on the way to this kind of growth. This is, by the way, the hockey stick that everybody talks about. This is our new users every year that we are assembling. And in the last couple of years, you can see it's really picking up. It's almost like it's doubling every year, like we said, in the last couple of 3-4 years. But it was pretty flat in the first 4 or 5 years. And there were a couple of good reasons for this. So one reason is that we didn't have a critical mass of listings of our apartments. So when you travel, you need to have enough opportunities to travel, and that took some time to build. But the main part, I want to give you another hint. It is the fact that sharing economy, and this is what we play in sharing economy, sometimes even called trust economy, because this whole transaction, this whole stranger to stranger transaction would never happen if you don't have this special fabric of trust, and it's extremely hard to establish this trust. Eric Schmidt, as you know, ex-CEO of Google, and I guess the chairman today. That's what he says, and I think a lot of leaders talk about the same, differently, but about the same thing. So if I can, I have a 30 seconds introduction of what we're talking about. Can you please all take your cell phones out? Yes, mobile phones. Please unlock your phone. Yeah? And give your phone to the person who sits on the left side.
Left side? For me, it's easy for me.
So, you all feel a little anxious about this moment, right? And this is just the phone, right? And we're talking about the apartment where we give the key to the stranger. And this is just a phone, right? But at the same time, I want to ask you, when you're holding somebody's phone, you probably feel a bit responsible, right? You're not gonna drop it accidentally. You hold it pretty tight. You're not gonna look at the messages. So it gives you the hints that usually people are quite responsive and good in nature. That goes in the premises of our company. So this is the baseline, and we need to build on top. Yeah, you can give the phone back. But I just want to give you an idea. Like, what would be your reaction if I would tell you that your neighbor is the best phone holder with 10 years of experience? Yeah, what do I say that he has, 25 5-star reviews from previous, unit.city participants who said we are satisfied and give him some thumbs up. So all these elements were critical elements of building the trust that we went through this learning, and at some point where we got it working, the hockey stick start picking up. So let me just give you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. So, before I go on, I just want to share this study from BlaBlaCar, another participant of sharing economy, and New York University. They went through significant research. I think they've surveyed 28,000 participants, and we're looking for a level of trust. How do we trust people around us? And you can see there's different components. There's friend, there's a family, neighbor, some people you know but not sure what they are. So there are different levels of trust. Kind of expected. I'm not sure why trends are bigger than family. I guess everybody has different families, but that's what it is. What happened that a properly designed reputational system, the reviews that we were just talking about, And when I say properly, it means that they're unique, they're not fake, they capture all the possible components that we're going to talk in a minute. So the fully trusted and complete review system has more trust than your neighbor and some of the coworkers. So these guys, after all this design, after all this research, they figure out that proper design system is as trusted as your friends and almost like your family member. And this is a great revelation. When I saw it first, I couldn't believe it. But that's the future. That's what allows all these digital systems really conduct this transactions between totally unknown people. So I'm just giving you a typical example. When somebody from, I don't know, from Japan going with a family to Argentina, guys don't speak any languages. I mean, they just communicate through the system, through Google Translate, and just giving key to each other. They happen to transact on our platform with a very expensive asset. They giving a key of the apartment. It's pretty big risk, and the other guy is putting risk of his family vacation. I mean, for a lot of people, this is the best time of the year during that week. So that was the essential idea that was behind our design principles. And I just want to give you a couple of illustrations. So, for example, in our system, there's no place for anonymity. Every participant has full filled-in profile. This is a bad profile, as you can see. This is a good profile. There's original picture. You know, we're checking whether it's a face picture or not. It's a validated profile with link to social network, bank account, phone number, email, all of it validated. So it's not just the Sunshine 69, it's a real person behind, and we know we've been proven. There is a description of what they do, hobbies, family status, some of the human parts start showing up here. And it goes on. I mean, there's his favorite listings, some of his previous travels and everything. So that's already a good step. So the good profile like this, so first time user, 68% of the time they're gonna go check the profile. If you're gonna find a profile like this, I mean, good luck, you're not gonna have many transactions. This increases, I don't know, significant chances of you getting booked. Another learning that we discovered that building trust requires some communication and level of coolness, right? So that means when you introduce yourself, people expect to some chat. Not a lot. They want to know about your issues with your mother or that you broke up last month and everything. That creates uncoolness, but not super short message that you just like sending it to get rid of the guy. You want to say, hey, love your place. Great design. I'm coming for the conference, staying there for 2 days, and we'll see my friends who live in nearby neighborhood. So that's a good, statistically validated response or a request that we've validated through big data, you can say this, and that's the learning, right? How do we propose this behavior through design? We give them the opportunity to remind that this is the topics that you need to talk about, and then the message box has a certain number of symbols, 250 symbols, that we suggest this is the optimal size, and kind of guide people to step to that behavior, although obviously we cannot, control it, but this little trick was instrumental to get more communication going on. Another interesting example is based on this principle of biases that we all have. Nick and I will just talk about it today. It's hard to get away from them. We've been raised like this. One of the common biases is that we like people that are similar to us, and they're less likely. I mean, the less they look like us, the less we're gonna trust them, right? And there are a ton of examples, but apparently, good reputational system breaks all these biases. And you could be totally different person, different color scheme, different region, ethnic background and everything. But if you have a good reviews that we talk about, you're gonna get much higher trust level than even if you the same color of the eyes and then the heights. So what needs to happen? We need to have. I'm just gonna skip it because it's a little technical. We need to get as many reviews as possible. right? So we need to generate negative reviews as well, because we want to know the bad actors. And so statistics shows that if you have one review, you have 4 chances higher to get booked if you don't have reviews. If you have 10 reviews, you have 10x more chances to get booked. So we need to create this environment where people, take time and they share reviews. In our system, 75% of our trips are being reviewed. And by the way, when you review somebody, you don't get any benefit for yourself. You're gonna get a minute in the system for the future guests. It's a very cool result we have. The way we've done it with the blind reviews system. So the way it works, the problem was that we didn't have a lot negative reviews. People were afraid of retaliation, of some pressure. If I give you bad reviews, you're gonna give me bad reviews and everything. So the way it works, you give both parties 2 weeks to submit your review, and you have it in the blind state. So I'm saying something about Nick, he's saying something about me, and we're still blind. In 2 weeks, we open our cards, and that's going to be the last day when you can actually submit reviews. After this, it's already gone. And as a result, we got close to 5% bump in negative reviews, which doesn't seem a lot, but on composite rating, it's actually quite significant, which again creates this behavior that we weren't expected from users to share, to read, to trust more than we have. So another design principle that was easy to implement, but it was hard to arrive to. This is the example of reviews. Each stay, each listing has 6 different reviews. Accuracy of the picture. If picture looks exactly like this as was advertised, you're gonna get 5 stars. Communication, and we talked about that importance, that it's timely, it's polite, it's informative. Cleanliness of space, obviously a huge issue, and you want to push it forward. Location and value, how much did you pay for that location, and just get a sense of whether it was rightly priced. And the check-in process. When you arrive, you need to meet the host and make sure it's on timely basis, and they give you the right welcoming. So all of this information goes into the system and creates a rating for your next search. So if you suck in this, you're not going to have much business. You're going to go down in rating. You're not going to get to the first page. A typical kind of search optimization for Airbnb. But important, you as a traveler also have review. And you need to care. It's a little different. You don't have 6 opportunities, but if you not a good human, the system will know about it, and then the follow-up opportunities will be, less optional for you. So I think I'm coming to the end, and we're gonna kick off Q&A. But this is amazing. After all of this, it was still not enough to create this solid trust, and we come up with this, product feature where travelers were paying through the system. It might be supernatural right now to pay for a system, but before it was cash on arrival, and it was really bumpy. But as we introduced these payment methods, you pay right away, but the cash is transferred in one day after you arrive. So you have a first 24 hours to check whether you like the place, whether all pictures and accuracy and hosts are up to your expectations, and only after this the money is being transferred. So that little tweak again, pure design hub, created a totally different behavior, because users with hosts were not incentivized to trick the system, because they know they don't get the cash at the end of the day if they start being too aggressive with their offer. And on the other end, hosts were kind of concerned what happened to my belongings, what happens to my plasma. I really like my place. All this new. The Japanese tourists that I mentioned, I'm not sure how they're going to behave. They come with kids, and we said, don't worry, we're going to give you a $1 million guarantee. If anything happened to your belonging, or liability if your Japanese guest gets slipped and God forbid something happens with his neck, we're going to cover it as well. And that created certain trust and reliability that people could start giving their major assets online. There's a question.